Namo Buddhaya, the Satasahasrika Prajnaparamita Sutram, the large Sutra on perfect wisdom, the chapter 31st, on RELICS, moderately weak. The Lord. If Śakra, on one hand someone were to present you with this Jambudvipa filled up to the top with the relics of the Tathagata, and if on the other hand you were presented with a copy of this perfection of wisdom, which one of the two would you take? Śakra, the perfection of wisdom. And why? It is not, O Lord, that I lack in respect for these relics of the Tathagata, and it is not that I am unwilling to honor, revere, and worship them, but I am fully aware, O Lord, that the relics of the Tathagata have come forth from the perfection of wisdom, and that for that reason they are honored, revered, and worshipped. I am aware that they are saturated with the perfection of wisdom, and for that reason they become an object of worship. Śariputra, the perfection of wisdom, Kauśika, cannot be seized. It is undefinable and non-reacting, and has one mark only, no mark. How then can you think that it can be something that should be taken up, and why? For the perfection of wisdom has not been established for the sake of appropriation or non-appropriation, or of diminution or growth, of adding something or taking it away, of defilement or purification. It doesn't bestow the dharmas of a Buddha, nor does it spurn the dharmas of the common people. It doesn't bestow the dharmas of a Bodhisattva, Pratyekabuddha, or disciple. It doesn't bestow the dharmas of learners or of adepts, nor the condition, nor the unconditioned element, nor the various kinds of enemies, and the perfections, the applications of mindfulness, etc., to Buddha dharmas, Śakra. So it is, Venerable Śariputra, as you say, the perfection of wisdom is not the donor of the Buddha dharmas, etc., to all knowledge. And why? Because it is not set up as twofold, but is non-dual, and that holds good also of the other perfections. The Lord. Well said, Kauśika. So it is as you have explained. One would wish for a duality in the Dharma element if one were to wish for a duality in the perfection of wisdom. And why? Because the Dharma element with the perfection of wisdom are not two nor divided. And what is true of the Dharma element, that is true also of suchness, the reality limit, and the unthinkable element. Śakra. I pay homage to the perfection of wisdom to which the world, with its gods, men, and asuras, pay homage. Having trained in it, the Bodhisattva knows full enlightenment. When I am seated on my own godly seat in Sudharma, the whole of the gods, when the gods who come along to wait on me salute me, and as I am seated there. But when I am not there, I am on my own land seat. Then the gods salute this, my seat, and go away again. For they recall that seated on this Dharma seat, Śakra, chief of gods, demonstrates Dharma to the gods of the 33. Likewise, divinities from all the 10 directions, as well as gods, nagas, etc., to Maharagas, will come to the place into which a copy of this perfection of wisdom has been put, and where it is repeated and explained to others, and they will pay homage to that perfection of wisdom that then go away again. For they recall that from it have come forth the Tathagatas, and from it has come everything that brings ease to all beings. They will recall that even the relics of the Tathagata become an object of worship only because they are saturated with the perfection of wisdom, that the perfection of wisdom is the essential practice of the Bodhisattva and the true foundation and cause of the cognition of the all-knowing, and that is nourished it. Therefore, Lord, presented with the two lots mentioned before, I would choose just the perfection of wisdom, and whenever having taken up this perfection of wisdom and repeating it with mind pervaded by Dharma, I pay homage to the perfection of wisdom. I do not perceive a sign which indicates its existence as a stable entity. And why? Because the perfection of wisdom is signless, without attributes. It is not to be taken about and incommunicable. And so are the other perfections, and so it is everything up to all knowledge. If, O Lord, the perfection of wisdom had signs and attributes, if it could be talked about and communicated instead of being signless, without attribute, inexpressible and incommunicable, that the Tathagata, having known all dharmas as signless without attributes, inexpressible and incommunicable, would not have, after fully knowing the supreme enlightenment, demonstrated to beings a dharma which is signless without attribute, inexpressible and incommunicable. But because this perfection of wisdom is silence without attribute, inexpressible and incommunicable, therefore the Tathagata, after knowing no dharmas, is silence without attributes, inexpressible and incommunicable, has, after fully knowing the supreme enlightenment, demonstrating the dharma to beings as silence without attributes, inexpressible and incommunicable, fairly weak. Therefore, this perfection of wisdom should be honored and revered by the world with its gods, men, and asuras, and it should be worshipped with flowers, etc. And if someone honors it, one should not expect him to be reborn in the hells among animals or in the world of Yama, nor should one expect him to choose the level of a disciple of Pratyekabuddha until he finally wins full enlightenment, and he will never be without a vision of the Tathagatas and will continuously mature beings and enter into a Buddha field so as to honor and revere the Tathagatas and to worship them with flowers, etc. Weekly medium. Moreover, Lord, if I had to choose between a copy of the perfection of wisdom on the one side and even this great utile cosmo filled to the top with relics of the Tathagata on the other, I would still choose just this perfection of wisdom. And why? Because from it have come forth the relics of the Tathagata, and for that reason are they honored, revered, and worshipped. And for that reason also the sons and daughters of good family who have honored, revered, and worshipped it are no more reborn in the great distress of their wretched destinies, but having experienced the achievements open to gods and men, they enter nirvana in accordance with their original vow through the vehicle of the disciples of that of the Pratyekabuddhas or the great vehicle. In fact, the vision of the Tathagata and the vision of the perfection of wisdom are of equal value. Because what is the perfection of wisdom and what is the Tathagata? That is not two or divided, moderately medium. Moreover, there is equal value in the Tathagata with the help of the triple miracle demonstrating Dharma, the 12-limbed Dharma, which consists of discourses, etc., to expositions, and in someone demonstrating this perfection of wisdom in detail to others after he has learned and studied it. And why? Because from this perfection of wisdom has the triple miracle come forth, and so have the discourses, etc., to expositions. Moreover, O Lord, there is equal value in the innumerable Buddhas and Lords in countless world system in all the 10 directions demonstrating Dharma, the discourses, etc., to expositions with the help of the triple miracle, and in some one explaining this perfection of wisdom in detail to others after he had learned it, for the same reason as before. Moreover, there is equal value in someone honoring, revering, and worshipping all the countless Tathagatas everywhere, and in some honoring, revering, and worshipping a copy of this perfection of wisdom. And why? Because from this perfection of wisdom have the Tathagatas come forth strongly medium. Moreover, Lord, the son or daughter of good family who will take up this perfection of wisdom, etc., who will explain it in detail to others, of him one should not expect that he will be reborn in the hells among the animals or in the world of Yama. Of that he will operate on the level of a disciple of Pratyekabuddha, because then Bodhisattva is established on the irreversible level. And why? Because one would not expect of someone who, having copied it out, learns this perfection of wisdom, etc., to worships it with flowers, etc., that he would be afraid anywhere. It is as with a man who, greatly frightened, waits on the king. If he manages by his good service to placate the king, he will be served upon also by those of whom he was afraid, that will no longer fear him. And why? In the presence of powerful support, there can be no fear. It is just so that the relics of the Tathagata become an object of worship as being saturated with the perfection of wisdom. In this context, the perfection of wisdom corresponds to the king. As that man who is supported by the king becomes an object of worship, just so the relics of the Tathagata become objects of worship because saturated with the perfection of wisdom. And also that cognition of the all-knowing should be known as saturated with the perfection of wisdom. Therefore, if confronted with the two laws mentioned above, I would choose just this perfection of wisdom in mind, because from it have come forth the relics of the Tathagata, as well as the 32 marks of a Superman, the 10 powers of a Tathagata, etc., to the 18 Buddha Dharmas, the great friendliness and the great compassion, as they have come forth from it to do the 5 perfections gain the appellation of a perfection, and also the all knowledge of the Tathagatas has come from it. wherever it the greater chili-cosm, wherever in the greater chili-cosm being take up this perfection of wisdom, etc., what's they attend to it? The humans and non-humans who look or seek for entry to them do not gain entry, and all these beings will gradually move towards parinirvana. So great is the wonder working power of this perfection of wisdom, and this perfection of wisdom has been set up in this gradually constant that beings in it might do the work of the Buddha. One should expect a Buddha to appear in that world system in which the perfection of wisdom is observed. It is, O Lord, like a priceless jewel which has the following properties. It prevents men and ghosts from entering the place where it is put. If someone were possessed by a ghost, one has only to introduce this jewel, and that ghost would depart unable to endure the splendor of that jewel. If someone's body were burning with bile, one would only have to apply this jewel, and the bile will be held back, would not get worse, and will be appeased. And the jewel would have the same effect when applied to a body oppressed by wind, choking with phlegm, or suffering from a disease resulting from a disorder of the humors. At night it would illuminate the sense. In the heat it would spread coolness. In the cold it would spread warmth. And wherever it is placed, the temperature will not be too hot or too cold, but just pleasant. Its presence derives vipers, scorpions, and crawling animals from districts which they have infected. If someone were beaten by a viper, he would only have to exhibit the jewel, and at its mere sight that poison would depart. This is the kind of qualities which have jewel would have. If those people who are vexed by various diseases will but place the jewel on their bodies, then all those diseases will be appeased. Placed in water, it dyes that water all through with its own color. Wrapped in a blue cloth and thrown into water, it makes the water blue. Equally, when wrapped in a yellow cloth, or a red one, or in a crimson one, or a crystal colored one, or one dyed in various hues, and it would also completely clear up any turbidity there might be in the water. Endowed with such and other qualities, that jewel will be Ananda. Is this jewel a heavenly one, or can it be found among the men of Jambudvipa, Śakra? This is heavenly jewel. The jewels of men of Jambudvipa are rather small and coarse, but the heavenly ones are large and fine. They are as full of all possible qualities as men of Jambudvipa are lacking in them. In fact, the jewels of Jambudvipa are infinitely inferior to the heavenly ones. If now that heavenly jewel were placed into a basket, then that basket would still remain an object of longing even after the jewel had been taken out of it, since one would remember that that jewel had been placed into it. Just so, in that place where this perfection of wisdom has been observed, these physical or mental ills and troubles, whether caused by humans or non-humans, cannot affect the sons and daughters of good family. And great jewel is a synonym for the perfection of wisdom and the cognition of all knowing. One cannot enumerate the qualities of the perfection of wisdom, for they are innumerable. Innumerable are the qualities of the other perfections, etc., to the Buddha dharmas, as so are those of the cognition of all knowing, of the realm of dharma, the fixed sequence of dharma, the suchness of the reality limit, and of the unthinkable element. These qualities of the cognition of the all-knowing all are the reasons why the relics of the Tathagata who has gone to parinirvana become an object of worship. These relics of the Tathagata are the true repositories of the cognition of the all-knowing, of the forsaken, of all the defilements, together with their residues of the ability to always dwell in even-mindedness, and of the state of being always mindful, and that is the reason why they become objects of worship. Weakly strong, Śakra. These relics of the Tathagata, O Lord, are their repository of the precious perfections, of the perfection which is without defilement or purification, without production or stopping, without coming and going. they are the repository of the perfection of Dharmahood, because are as pervaded by Dharmahood, do they become objects of worship. Moreover, Lord, if on the one side not only the gratitude cosmos, but all the countless world systems were filled to the very top with relics of the Tathagata, and if on the other side I were offered a copy of the perfection of wisdom, then of those two I would choose the perfection of wisdom and mind, because from it have come forth the relics of the Tathagata, which become objects of worship only because they are saturated with the perfection of wisdom. If someone honors, reveres, and worships the relics of the Tathagata, then as a result of his wholesome roots, he will experience pleasures open to both gods and men, and he will make an end of ill after having experienced pleasures in the families of various Brahmins and wealthy householders, and among the gods of the four great kings, etc., to the gods who control enjoyments magically created by others. But if someone learns this perfection of wisdom, etc., to wisely attends to it, then he can fulfill the perfection of meditation, etc., to the perfection of giving the 37 wings which lead to enlightenment, etc., to the 18 special dharmas of a Buddha. He can transcend the levels of a disciple of Pratyekabuddha, enter on a Bodhisattva special way of salvation, acquire the super knowledges of a Bodhisattva, pass on from Buddhahood to Buddhahood, and take up at will all kinds of personifications which enable him to mature beings, whether he appears as a world ruler or as a warrior, Brahmin, or wealthy householder. Therefore, Lord, it is not that I lack in respect for the relics of the Tathagata, or that I do not want to be involved with them, but obviously it is because of the perfection of wisdom being honored, revered, and worshipped that the relics of the Tathagata are honored, revered, and worshipped. Moreover, those who want to see both the Dharma body and the physical bodies of the Tathagatas who abide in countless world systems in all the 10 directions and demonstrate Dharma should listen to this perfection of wisdom, learn it, etc., to wisely attend to it. If someone wants to see those Tathagatas, he should coarsen in the perfection of wisdom, develop the recollection of the Buddha by way of two kinds of dharmas, which are the two kinds of dharmas of the Buddhas and Lords, the conditioned and the unconditioned dharmahood. What then is conditioned dharmahood? The cognition of the 18 kinds of emptiness and the 37 dharmas which act as wings to enlightenment, etc., to of the holy truth of the unlimited, to etc., to the Buddha dharmas, and also the cognition of the wholesome rules, be they with or without alphas, faulty or faultless, worldly or supramental, leading to defilement or purification. This is called the cognition dharmahood. And what is meant by the unconditioned dharmas? That dharma of which there is no production or stopping, no stability or instability or alteration, no defilement or purification, no diminution or growth, etc., of all dharmas, the non-existence of all being. And what is of all dharmas? The non-existence of all being, the 18 kinds of emptiness, the fact that all dharmas are empty of essential original nature, have no basis, etc., are inexpressible and incommunicable. That is called the unconditioned dharmahood. Medium strong, the Lord. So it is Kauśika, so it is all the Tathagatas owe their enlightenment to this very perfection of wisdom, whether they live in the past, future, or present. All the disciples in Pratyekabuddha's past, future, and present owe their special forms of enlightenment to it, and thanks to it, the other holy men at all times win the fruit of streamer, winner, etc., to our hardship. And why? Because in this perfection of wisdom, the three vehicles are explained in detail, but by way of indicating no sign, by way of non-production and non-stop and non-defilement and non-purification, by way of not affecting anything, not by way of toiling or withdrawing from it, not by way of aiding or subtracting anything, not by way of appropriation or non-appropriation, and in any case only by way of worldly convention, and not as is it is an ultimate reality. And why? Because in the perfection of wisdom, one doesn't conceive of not beyond or a beyond, a shore or a gap between two shores, even or uneven, sign or signless, worldly or supramental, conditioned or unconditioned, wholesome or unwholesome, past, future, present. Nor does the perfection of wisdom bestow any dharma, also not the dharmas of Pratyekabuddhas or the dharmas which constitute Arhatship, strongly strong, Śakra. A great perfection is this perfection of wisdom, for when the Bodhisattva is coursing it, they can wisely know the thoughts and doings of all beings, although they do not apprehend a being, a living soul, a personality, a man, a human, a young man, one who does, one who feels, or one who sees. Nor do they apprehend form, etc., to enlightenment, or one who is enlightened, or the dharmas of a Buddha. For the perfection of wisdom has not been set up by taking anything as a basis. And why? Because that own being doesn't exist and cannot be apprehended, nor that by which it could be apprehended, that which could be apprehended, or what wherein it would be apprehended, Lord. So it is Kauśika, so it is in this way the Bodhisattva who courses in the perfection of wisdom by way of taking nothing for a basis does not even apprehend enlightenment. How much less the dharmas of a Buddha to be Śakra. Thus, then, the Bodhisattva course only in the perfection of wisdom and not in the other perfections, the Lord. The Bodhisattva courses in all the perfections and not only in the perfection of wisdom, but without taking anything as a basis. He doesn't apprehend the perfection of giving or a donor or a recipient, not the perfection of morality, no one of good conduct nor morality, nor the perfection of passions, no one who is passion, nor that which has to be endured, nor the perfection of vigor, nor that which has to be done, nor by and thought, nor body and thought, but the perfection of meditation, nor thought, nor trance, nor the perfection of wisdom, no one who is wise or stupid. But it is the perfection of wisdom which directs and guides the Bodhisattva who gives gifts, guards his morality, develops passions, exerts vigor, enters into trance and has insight into dharmas, and though without taking any dharma as a basis from this cantus to the Buddha dharmas. The trees of Jambudvipa have different leaves and foliage, different flowers and fruit, different heights, shapes, and circumference. But with regard to the shadows cast by these trees, no distinction or difference can be apprehended, but they are all just called shadows. Just so, no distinction of difference can be apprehended between the five perfections, all of them upheld by the perfection of wisdom and dedicated to all knowledge because of the absence of a basis. Praise, eulogy, and glorification. Praise. Very weak. Śakra. Endowed with great qualities, O Lord, is this perfection of wisdom. She is perfect as in possessions of all qualities, endowed with immeasurable, conceivable, incomparable, and infinite and boundless qualities. Let us again consider two people. One has made a copy of this perfection of wisdom and bears it in mind, recites and studies it, also honors, reveres, and worships it with flowers, etc., and wisely attends to the perfection of wisdom as it has been expounded. The other, having made a copy of this perfection of wisdom, gives it to others, which one of the two begets the greater merit. Lord, I will question you on this point, and you may answer to the best of your abilities. What do you think, Kauśika? If one person were to honor, revere, and worship this with flowers, etc., the relics of the Tathagata, and if another person were to give to someone else and share with him a relic of the Tathagata, only as big as a mustard seed, which the result that its recipient would honor, revere, and worship the relic of the Tathagata as big as mustard seed, which one of the two would beget the greater merit? Śakra. As I understand the meaning of the Lord's teachings, compared with the one who by himself honors, etc., the relics of the Tathagata, the one who gives to another Tathagata relic only as big as mustard seed will beget the greater merit. When he considers this state of affairs, the Tathagata, having entered on the adamantine trance and having made his body also adamantine, generates the relics of the Tathagata out of his great compassion for the world of beings and leaves the Tathagata relics for those beings who can be disciplined. And why? Of those who, after the Tathagata spurn nirvana worship early, even as big as a mustard seed, produce a wholesome root of which the end cannot be reached until they themselves win nirvana, parinirvana. Lord. So it is Kauśika, so it is the son or daughter of good family who honors etc. this perfection of reason and gives a copy of it to someone else begets the greater merit. Moderately weak. Moreover, someone will beget still greater merit if, having given to others this perfection of wisdom as it has explained, he will expound it to them. One would expect him to have found a teacher or a succession of preceptor who represent him and who lead a spiritual life, and why. For this very perfection of wisdom should, in this context, be regarded as the teacher, nor is the teacher one thing and the perfection of wisdom another, but just the perfection of wisdom is the teacher, and just the teacher is the perfection of wisdom. And why? Because those who have trained in this perfection of wisdom will appear in the world as the Tathagatas of the past, future, and present. And also those bodhisattvas who, in possession of the superknowledge and lead a spiritual life, have one after the other stood in irreversibility, have fully known the supreme enlightenment while training in this perfection of wisdom. In just this perfection of wisdom have the disciples trained, and through it the arhats have attained arhatship, the Pratyekabuddha, the enlightenment of a Pratyekabuddha, and the Bodhisattvas. And the Bodhisattvas have entered on their special mode of salvation, enter on it, and will enter on it. Therefore, then, someone who wants face-to-face to honor, etc., the Tathagatas should honor, etc., a copy of this perfection of wisdom, considering also the state of affairs. It occurred to me that I had known full enlightenment. In dependence on which dharma should I know well, which dharma should I honor, revere, or worship? On perceiving that I had attained to the highest prominence in the world with its gods, brahmanas, maras, with its shamanas and brahmanas, it occurred to me I will now honor, revere, and worship that dharma through which I have been full enlightened, and I will dwell in reliance on that dharma. But the dharma, that is this perfection of wisdom, so I honor, revere, and worship this perfection of wisdom, and having done so, dwell in dependence on it. How can I be that those who want to know full enlightenment should not honor, revere, and worship this perfection of being, of wisdom? And why? Because those who belong to the vehicle of the disciples and Pratyekabuddha should honor, etc., this perfection of wisdom. And why? From the perfection of wisdom have the Bodhisattvas come forth, from the Bodhisattvas the Tathagatas, from the Tathagatas all the disciples and Pratyekabuddhas. Therefore, then, both of the followers of the great vehicle and the followers of the disciple vehicle should honor, etc., this perfection of wisdom, and when they have trained in it, they know and will know the utmost right and perfect enlightenment. This is the end of 31st chapter of the large Sutra on perfect wisdom, the Satasahasrika Prajnaparamita Sutram.